Today we're diving into the story of a man whose work formed the very bedrock of medicine for a staggering 600 years, an intellectual giant known to the world as Avicenna.
I want you to just think about that for a second. 6 centuries. From the Middle East all the way to France, if you were a doctor in training, you learned from one book. It was the undisputed source of truth for generations.
And you don't have to take my word for it. The legendary physician Sir William Osler didn't pull any punches. He called it a medical Bible. I mean, that tells you everything you need to know about its influence. It wasn't just another textbook, it was the textbook.
So that's the real question, isn't it? A book with that kind of impact doesn't just write itself. Who is the genius behind this medical revolution?
Well, he was Abu Ali al-Hussein Ibn Sina, but you probably know him by his Latinized name, Avicenna. He earned himself the title Prince of Physicians, and believe me, his story is every bit as incredible as his work.
Avicenna's genius wasn't something that developed over time. No, this guy was a prodigy, plain and simple. From his earliest days, he just had this relentless mind that devoured knowledge at a rate that's honestly hard to comprehend.
Just look at this timeline. It's wild. By 7, when most kids are learning multiplication tables, he had the entire Quran and volumes of poetry memorized. He picks up medicine at 16, and just 2 years later, he's not a student anymore, he's a court physician. By 21, he starts writing the books that will change the world. It's absolutely staggering.
And this quote right here, it just says it all. The level of confidence is amazing. He had spent his youth wrestling with dense philosophy, so when he turned to the human body, he basically said, "Oh, this is easy." For him, medicine was just another logical puzzle, and he solved it fast.
I love this quote because it gets to the very heart of who he was. This wasn't some quiet scholar locked away in a library. Avicenna's life was a whirlwind of political power, getting thrown in prison, advising rulers, and constant travel. He crammed an unbelievable amount of living into his 57 years. He truly lived by this motto.
So, okay, let's talk about his masterpiece, the book that became that medical Bible. Its real name is Al-Qanun fil Tibb, which translates to the Canon of Medicine.
But wait, before we zero in on the canon, you have to appreciate this number, 450. That's how many works he is thought to have written. On everything, philosophy, astronomy, music, poetry. The man's mind simply never stopped working.
So what made the canon so revolutionary? It was the organization. Think of it like this. Before Avicenna, medical knowledge was like 1,000 puzzle pieces scattered on a table. What he did was put the whole puzzle together. He created a single logical system that covered everything, from the basic principles of health to a massive catalog of drugs and how to use them. And the ideas inside were just mind-blowing for the time. He figured out that diseases like tuberculosis were contagious. He realized illnesses could spread through water and soil, basically describing germs centuries before the microscope was invented. And his idea to use quarantine to stop diseases from spreading? Yeah, we're all pretty familiar with that one now. He even saw the connection between our minds and our bodies, how our feelings could make us physically sick.
Now here's the real kicker. He wasn't just guessing about this stuff. He laid out a clear set of rules for testing new drugs. I mean, look at this list. It's basically an early blueprint for the scientific method. This systematic approach, based on observation, evidence, and making sure you get the same result over and over, is the direct ancestor of the clinical trials we depend on today.
But, as if completely revolutionizing medicine wasn't enough for one lifetime, Avicenna was just as passionate about philosophy, and his work in that field would be just as important. He wrote this other massive encyclopedia, Kitab al-Shifa, or the Book of Healing. But here's the clever part. It's not about healing the body. The sickness he wanted to cure with this book was ignorance. It was a guide to logic, science, and metaphysics, all designed to heal the mind.
To really dig into what the soul is, he came up with this brilliant thought experiment. So, let's try it. I want you to imagine you're just created, floating in a total void. You can't see, hear, or feel anything at all. You can't even feel your own arms and legs. The question is, would you even know that you exist? Avicenna's answer was a confident, absolute yes. He argued that even with zero input from your senses, your core consciousness, your soul, yourself, would still be aware of its own existence. It doesn't need a body to know that it is.
Now, if that idea sounds familiar, it should. It's the core of what René Descartes would later famously say, "I think, therefore I am." But here's the mind-blowing part. Avicenna made this argument more than 600 years before Descartes was even born.
So, when you put it all together, what's the final word on Avicenna's impact? Well, it's a legacy that is echoed not just for a few years, but for centuries, across the entire world.
And what's so fascinating is how differently his work landed in different places. In the Islamic world, he became a foundational figure, a national icon. In Europe, well, it was more complicated. At one point, his philosophy was actually banned in Paris, but they couldn't ignore him. Thinkers like Thomas Aquinas wrestled with his ideas, and his Canon of Medicine became the mandatory curriculum in universities for hundreds of years.
And this isn't just ancient history. His influence is still all around us today. You can see his portrait hanging in Paris. There's a whole system of traditional medicine in India based on his work. He even has a crater on the moon named after him. His legacy is truly global, and it's still going strong.
I think this quote from someone who lived not long after him just nails it. Other great minds laid the groundwork. Hippocrates started it, Galen revived it, but it was Ibn Sina, Avicenna, who took all the scattered pieces and finally built them into a complete working system. He made medicine whole.
It just leaves you wondering, doesn't it? Avicenna's story is a powerful reminder that so much of our modern world was built on the shoulders of giants we don't always hear about in school. It makes you ask yourself, who else is out there, waiting in the shadows of history to be rediscovered?